Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Well, welcome to the Countryside Podcast with Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Some nice subjects today to talk about, particularly everybody loves a Meg lamb. And for people who don't know, Kiri, they're ones that find themselves basically orphaned without parents anymore, isn't it?
That's it.
Not that the male sheep has much to do with their lambs once they're born, do they?
No, not at all. But usually it's a triplet. The mother can't rear them, or there's been an illness and she can't feed them both. But yeah, lots of people love Meg lambs, children in particular, and they're a nice animal to take into school and teach some of the children, and into some of the hospices as well. Animals seem to be encouraging healing and better health, and yeah, they're a vital role, some of these animals.
One man and a sheep, and that's who you went to see as well, didn't you?
Yes, Jeff Gellen's very passionate about his orphan lambs. He has nearly 33 in the flock now, but these sheep are they're special to him, but they've come from other farms where the farmers might not have had time to look after them and feed them or give them the extra care they really need to survive, and he's done a great job of rearing them.
Yeah, and a nice relaxation, I'd imagine, after a tough day in the banking world as well.
Oh, absolutely.
I talked to MHK Ralph Peake about the drive to encourage people to make eco-friendly homes here on the Isle of Man, because I think you have to agree, Kiri, I think we're lagging behind a little bit with some of the European countries, aren't we?
We are. We don't see many houses with solar panels. There's a few more getting about, but yeah, it's a good drive, really. I think we can harvest some of these natural elements. It would be a good thing. It
would be. They always talk about the Isle of Man. There's wind conditions here, but of course there's that fine balance between the disturbing of the Isle of Man countryside and what's acceptable, isn't it? But
well, that's it. You see,
things have got to move forward, I suppose, haven't they?
That's it. A lot of windmills in the UK being established, and I don't know, maybe there's a few too many now, but we've got an unspoilt countryside, so yeah,
it's one of them, isn't it?
It's a difficult one.
We're not going to make that decision. And also, I went along to look at some wildflowers here on the Isle of Man with John Dog Collister, because his love of the countryside and particularly the wildflowers is well known, and he's always good to have a chat with as well, and he enjoys it, and such enthusiasm, a bit like yourself.
This is beautiful.
Maybe not
countryside.
so much about flowers.
Oh, it's a beautiful countryside we live in. We're very lucky that the garlic through the sunny orchard there, the smell of it when it's just growing up, and the bluebells and white bells. It's just unbelievable sight. It's stunning.
Well, there we go. You can sit and smell the smells and listen to countryside.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
The Isle of Man government are trying to drive forward a strategy to encourage people to build more eco-friendly homes here on the Isle of Man, to reduce fuel bills, etc., and, well, hopefully be able to spend more money on the Isle of Man economy. To find out more about this venture, I spoke to MHK Ralph Peake.
We're really trying to get people now to see how they can actually enjoy the benefits of embracing new technologies. I mean, new technology, they are available around the world, but there really is now clear evidence that by insulating your home well, we can then reduce the need for central heating, reduce the need for fossil fuels, and really get down to a minimum footprint of CO2 output.
Because a lot of places, some of the Scandinavian countries and things, have to have triple glazed and fitted as, they've got to do it, and they do it, and I suppose that's where it starts?
It is, that's exactly right. It's really around about encouraging people to do the right things at the start. And you mentioned triple glazing. Yes, you're absolutely right. Triple glazing the windows and triple glazed doors. Those are of apertures in the building fabric which do require a high insulation. We all want to see through nice windows, but to do that and to keep the insulation figures good, we do need to have that triple glazing. So that really is an important part of that. And if we have things like that, and then you'll have benefits year on year, and the object of this is to try and show to people that we can actually save them money on an ongoing year-by-year basis.
I do hear people sort of not moaning but putting it to that, well, yeah, we'd love to put the ones that put electricity back, or put the little tiny wind turbines that would generate a bit of electricity forward. But is it true that a lot of them won't get any return back? Is that one of the worries for the department?
That is one of the worries, and that is what we're trying to work on now. We're working on the strategy. Tynwald did agree a policy last year, in May of last year, which is to reduce our CO2 output by 80% by 2050.
80%?
80%.
Well, that's a lot, isn't it?
It is a lot. It's a lot to do, and that's why we need to start now. It sounds a long way off, but we do need to make a start now. So the department is working with other departments, the Department of Infrastructure and DED and Treasury, trying to get together this strategy that will really give clear guidance and advice to people on how they can save money going forward year by year. And we did have a good meeting in the Environment and Infrastructure Committee meeting last Friday, so we've now really agreed on which points we can take to Tynwald, hopefully in June of this year, with a strategy that will give us clear direction for 1 year and 5 years, so we can then see going down the right path of how we can get people to save money as well as reducing their CO2 output.
Yeah, it's encouraging the people, isn't it? Because you look at it to start and you think, oh, solar panel, I've just plucking a figure out of my head, might be £1,000, and oh, can I afford that? But it has been proven that these sort of things in a few years can actually pay for themselves, and you're saving money after that, aren't you?
You're absolutely right. It's that investment at the start to then save money year on year, and that is why we're working with the departments. The Treasury Minister did mention in this year's budget that they were looking at ways of perhaps creating money, like a bond, how we can actually fund energy efficient projects, and that's why we're working with Treasury on that, to see how we can take that idea and really channel it into real projects and proper advice for people on how we can move forward and reduce this CO2 output.
Are we very efficient on the Isle of Man in energy-wise at the moment?
Well, the island's very similar to the UK, so we're no worse than the UK at all, and 30% of the CO2 output does come from space heating, so that's heating of our homes as well as offices. So that's the biggest area, and that's why we're just focused on that at the moment. We really do believe that insulating our properties better will then allow people to save money year on year with heating bills and reduce the CO2 output. And we can start that we've got some great ideas with architectural designs, architectural competitions to try and get some interest and some properties built so people can actually see what it looks like. And we can then, once we have a better understanding with that, we'll be able to advise and roll out schemes and projects for people to insulate their existing homes, because that's where the biggest area is. But of course we have to get a really deep understanding to give the right advice in that area. So we're starting off with competitions around new properties.
What about the local council housing on the Isle of Man? Is there any sort of merits? I just pluck things out of the sky, why they can't have one big massive boiler that's piped into the whole estate or something like that? Yeah. Is that the sort of thing you can look into?
Yeah, it's a good idea, and that certainly is used in the UK quite a bit, really. We actually did a fact-finding day trip to Lancaster, and that's what they used. They used district heating systems, and they had a biomass boiler there, and that actually heated 40 apartments. Wow. These were apartments in a beautiful location next to the river, where they had a mini hydroelectric plant there that was producing up to 200 kilowatts of energy, and they had a biomass boiler to produce the hot water heating. Very efficient, very economical place to live, and people really did enjoy the fact there was just, in each of those homes, there was only one radiator to actually heat the whole of the home, and that had a living space, kitchen, dining space, upstairs, bedrooms, bathrooms, and just that one radiator. It was absolutely incredible. It was great to meet people who were living in these properties and hear from it firsthand how they were enjoying their lives living in a cleaner environment, because they had a mechanical heat system in there which takes all the heat out of the air that's in the property before it goes out, and then the clean air that comes in is pre-warmed. So again, it's really reducing the amount of loss in the building. It's quite incredible. And they were able to confirm that on the retrofit property that they actually saved 90% of their energy costs.
Wow, that's a lot. So that's what the department's trying to do. So all ongoing. And if can people help or get more information on it?
Yeah, we've had a number of people contact us because they've seen press releases, etc. And I have got a number of people. I'm just trying to get a collection of a few people who are interested to try and bounce some ideas off, to create a bit of a focus group. So I will be working with those people to get ideas from them, just to see what they think as well. So yes, by all means, you can contact me, and happy to talk to you.
Ralph Peake MHK, the department member responsible for environment, safety and health, talking there about, the encouragement of people to build more eco-friendly homes here on the Isle of Man, and not a bad idea. I've got a couple of solar panels and underfloor heating.
Have you?
Aye.
Goodness
and
me.
good mighty they are too, the solar panels. 2 big ones on the roof, and we thought long and hard about it when we built the house and thought, they might be a bit pricey. But in the summer months, 3 or 4 months, we don't need anything to do with the heat because the heating's on.
Goodness me.
Usually, but this will heat the water, and there's maybe 2 days that you need to just put it on when it's dull and there's not, because even if it's cloudy, this is enough generally to get enough hot water. So I think it's a good idea, as long as it's not gone overboard, I think.
Yeah, that is a great idea. And not many people have had experience with solar panels, so they might be a bit dubious about whether to buy them or use them. But knowing that they do work, like from yourself, it really does push. Because
there's new ones now with the photogenic, I sometimes call them, but whatever they are, the ones that produce the electric as well as the sunlight. But of course, as Ralph was saying there, more planning has to go into how people maybe could get some money back with it joined into the Isle of Man electricity grid. So a lot to do on it, but it's great to see that it's moving forward, because a lot of European countries seem to be well ahead, and Scandinavians well ahead of parts of the UK and Great Britain with that side of things, certainly.
Yeah, so let's hope we have lots of sunshine for more solar panels.
Yes, save my oil. Yes, do with lots of sunshine to keep us happy through the summer. And
definitely.
Of course, with the sunshine, and there's nothing better, you see lots of photographs taken around the Isle of Man of the spring lambs all bouncing around in the sunshine as well. And it's a business for a lot of people, but some people who have been doing other things all their lives just want to do something different. And you caught up with one such fella, Jeff Gellan, didn't you?
Jeff is very passionate about his sheep, and he's doing a great job of rearing orphan lambs. Farmers don't have the time to mess around and look after lambs, and some of these lambs need vital care, and Jeff's been taking some of the poorer ones from various farmers and giving them a good life, rearing them. Some of them have been to the vets, but he has had success. 7 years of rearing meg lambs, and some of them are having their own lambs now, and they're quite independent and thriving well. He's doing a great job with his wife, Jane.
Yeah, there'll be no deadlines there for him.
No deadlines at all. He finds it very therapeutic, especially when he's had a very busy day in the bank. He comes home to the lambs and has a lot of downtime with them, and it's certainly changed his way of life. So I popped round to his house, where he keeps some of the smaller ones in the garage, to see what they get up to.
It might seem crazy, well, it probably is crazy, but 7 years ago, when I was in a redundancy situation, a girl who'd worked for me and for my wife Jane previously, she'd been after Jane for a few years to adopt some meg lambs. And we decided to take 2 on, which was nice for me because there was a bit of stress relief after all that gone on in the bank. So we adopted Daisy and Rambo. That summer then we ended up with 7, which was probably a little bit more than we'd planned on. And as you know very well, they're quite tough to keep alive. And we did lose 1 or 2 along the way, which is always is tough going. But when we were very much learning, I wasn't from a sheep background. My grandfather was dairy and beef when I was a young lad, so sheep was something new for me.
But farmers don't particularly like orphan lambs or meg lambs as we know them. They can be quite costly, the milk, the vets. Now, these guys, have they always been healthy along the way?
Definitely not, but and you know that farmers generally do not like megs at all, and they'll do what they can not to have megs by adoption and other means. So we decided after the first year, when we gave them back to the farmer, and it was fairly distressing after having them home for nearly 5 months. And they were very, very, very tame. That if we did it again, we were going to keep them. So the following year we ended up with 9, both in full-time work by then, which was a bit of a stress. And like you say, I think it's generally about 50% of Megs make it, they say.
Yeah,
So we were sort of in those sort of stats as well. So it's quite hard keeping them going. The number of things they can get that you don't think about is mind-blowing. So whether it's watery mouth, bloat, infection, we've had quite a lot with joint ill. And the joint ill can be fairly destructive as well. So,
But you've got quite a big flock now. You'll have a fair few in total?
we've now amassed 33. The oldest are 6. We've only got, the year that we had 9 and we kept them, we had 7 boys and 2 girls. One of the girls is down at Santon, has produced many lambs over the last 5 years, which is great. And 5 of the boys that we have left are up at Mackle now that weigh about probably 130 kilos, I believe. And
They bring a lot of love to the house, and they bring a lot of love to children as well. Recently, Teddy, a big celebrity now.
I know, yeah, over the years, when I think it was even the first or second year, we were asked to take one of the Megs into school. And it was actually Ballycotty where we went back to today. And I'm a governor at Skull Jubilee, so we've taken them into there over the last few years as well. But kids love them. A lot of kids don't know what they are, believe it or not. In some of the town schools, they think they're dogs. We do take them in on a harness and a lead, which probably is a bit confusing. but yeah, so it's great to be able to do it. The kids love it. Lambs are inoffensive. They don't scratch anybody. They don't bite anybody. They're very loving, which is lovely. So yeah, the kids get loads out of it.
It really is a thing nowadays that people do get a lot of love from animals, and animal therapy is a really big plus in some of these hospitals, especially hospices. Do you believe in it?
I do. I mean, we've had a lot of kids, as you can imagine, living on an estate in the middle of Laxey. We have lots of kids who visit. And some of those kids have got learning challenges, and they do embrace the lambs. And it's funny, they seem to attract those kids probably more so than any other kids, and they're very intrigued as to how they actually develop a relationship with them, and they can't understand how tame they become, because obviously if they walk in a field with a lamb and a sheep, they wouldn't see them for dust, and you wouldn't get a hand on them. So to be able to feed them and bottle feed them and engage with them is brilliant.
Do you believe that children can come out to farms and experience the life they have in Knockaloe Beg now for children? It's getting more so?
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, like I say, we brought it into the community here a little bit. And I mean, some of our neighbours still don't know we have lambs and sheep here, to be honest, because they are very quiet normally. So yeah, so I think the people who know, yeah, it brings it into the full view. And I think, to be fair, that there's nothing wrong with that. I think farms can be dangerous places, you know, as well as I do. But in the right environment, Knockaloe Beg's a perfect example where kids can go in the fields and experience sheep and other animals, close at hand. And I think, it's got to be encouraged, because at the end of the day, their food comes from somewhere, doesn't it? We don't put ours in for slaughter, as you know. Ours are long-term pets, hence having 33 of them. But, kids still then know where their food is coming from. And whilst we might have lots of non-lamb eaters around Ardreath and Laxey, generally speaking, obviously it helps the process of what they're teaching at school as well.
Well, thank you, Jeff, and I hope you have a great summer with the 5 that are running around here in the garden and at the patio window right now. But it's lovely to see someone from the town experience what farmers go through every year with the orphans and give these lambs a chance.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And yeah, I mean, we get so much out of it, and we really do, and we love doing it. And it's the golf's gone out through the window, the suit's gone, the wellies are on. It's very much a hobby. It's been a long winter. The ground is still wet, unfortunately, and the sheep hate the rain anyway. So fingers crossed we get a nice dry summer and the rest of the year.
You're starting to sound like a real farmer now.
Oh,
That was Jeff Gelling chatting to me about his pet lambs.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, as we've mentioned during this programme, we finally had less rain and more sunshine here on the Isle of Man, and a great time for the wild flowers here on the island to bloom and blossom. I went along, out and about, in a secret location with John Doug Collister to have a look at some. We're here just heading up Sartfield from Bacarrow Crossroads, and it's hidden away a little bit, John, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's off the beaten track. I come down here, regularly to cut through to Michael, but it's a hedge that I always look at, and there's a lot of stuff on it, flowers, and it's like all year round. There's always something to be seen on it.
Because people I suppose, associate it with the sort of flat gardens and arboretums, don't they? But
Aye.
a lot of the wildflowers we're looking at are on the hedgerows.
Yeah. Well, we see here there's 3 or 4 here just straight in front of us. We got primroses. Sumac is Manx name for Cronk Sumac, Primrose Hill.
Aye.
Campion, red campion. Lusna fairy flower. It's Lusna ferrishin, fairy flower. We've got violets, Blair Village, sweet flower. There's ferns, all sorts of different ferns. Celandine, the yellow celandine. It's a mass of colour when you look at it. Interestingly, primroses have 2 different centres. Just not very good on the wireless, but one there that looks like maybe 4 sausages together. And then there's other ones that look like the head of a pin, which you can't really see that. But anyway, so they have 2 different centres, and I don't think it's unique, but it's a little bit different. Insects with different length tongues, or proboscis or whatever they call them, can pollinate them because there's anthers and pistils and all sorts in there, and the pollen, it's quite a deep flower, so you need a long proboscis to get down to the bottom to get to the nectar. But they can be pollinated by different sized insects. Just an interesting thing. It's unusual.
The primroses, though, are they mainly found around wetter areas?
No. You get to see this is a dry hedge, and I don't know whether anybody's been at the start of the switchback, the Peel Appeal to Michael Road end. There's a little woodland there, and when you're coming from Peel toward the sandpit, through the trees haven't got any leaves on either. The bruitus just starts showing as they talk about fields, and the green just starts to come through. The bruitus just starts showing on the trees, but you can see how yellow. It's yellow as a duck's foot, or cream as a duck's foot. It's an absolute mass of primrose. It's a wonderful year for primroses this year. Absolutely fantastic.
And people seem to, think of bouquets of flowers and all the big roses and carnations, but you get a group of these wildflowers together. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, technically, years ago we used to pick handfuls and so on, but technically a lot of them you're not allowed to pick anymore.
What about your favourite place for the wildflowers? Is it round this area because it just looks so rural?
Well, I can't say I like any particular spot. Well, I've got a soft spot for the Curragh, and I was out there yesterday for a wander, and I think the Curragh is a fantastic place, and the colours and so on. This time of year, before a lot of the leaves come on the trees, all the greys and the browns and the oranges and the greens and so on, it's a fantastic place to go to. But I just like to stop at somewhere, and there's lots of them. This is not the only place. There's a nice hedge as you're going towards Peel on the coast road. Just before you get to Jeffreys, there's just a bank there that's a mass of wildflowers, and you come along here, and as I say, that if you start looking, there's probably a dozen wildflowers here in flower. It helps me keep my memory going as you get older, as you know, and it helps me keep up to date. See, there's ferns here. I don't know me ferns. There's ferns here. There's all sorts of things that some haven't come yet, and the thing is, you come here toward the back end, and the primrose will all be gone, but there'll be other things out.
How long are they going to be out for?
These will probably be out a month or so, and then they'll start to die back, and then there'll be other things here, and I bet you there'll be flowers in flower here on Christmas Day. I did a bit of a walk around Kirkmichael 4 or 5 years ago, and I counted about 10 flowers in bloom on Christmas Day, which is fantastic.
Is that due to the supposed warmer
weather? No, you see, certain things, we haven't got that much gorse in Kirkmichael village, but for instance, gorse flowers all year round, but we got 2 lots of gorse. There's some Manx gorse, the short, pillowy stuff, and then the big, long, lanky stuff, Italian, I think they call it. But the gorse flower at different seasons. The different gorses flower at different seasons. So there is a little Manx saying that the kissing's in vogue while the gorse is in flower, and the thing is, it's always out. Once the spring one is finished, the autumn one comes in, and as I say, you go round anywhere and you will find flowers in flower. So we got a snail out. Again, it's not very good on the wireless, but it's just looking. There's all sorts of stuff here. You look around. The more you look, the more you see. Dandelion, there's dandelion clock there, That's been and gone. There's some there just about to come out.
And a handy guide to go with it is the Manx Flora book.
Well, I just shown you the book that Chris Sheard and myself, 2007. It was brought out, but it's not a picture book. It's an information book. It's Manx flower names. It's in 4 halves, as I say. There's There's the 3 languages, Manx, English and Latin. And we each take a turn of being first and then back as a kind of glossary of the terms, so you can work out, for instance, thrift is called Cion Jerg, Cion Head, Jerg Redhead, and you see that growing on the headlands, and that's growing on the road into Peel, the coast road from Michael.
All in all, it's a fantastic time of year to be out surveying the Manx countryside, really, for wildflowers, John.
It's great, yeah. People say, how do you know these things? I just got a book one time. I went out for a wander and I was looking, under my feet was all sorts of stuff, and I got a book. I was scratching and looking and I couldn't find him. George Quayle, fortunately, was alive then. And I used to go to George and I'd say I'd found this, and George would tell me what it was and where I'd found it. He was fantastic. But it was just a case of persevering, looking through, what's that? If you don't know what that is, well, look for something else. And gradually I built up a knowledge, and then I got interested in the Manx names, started taking pictures, and I was putting them in like albums, and then one of them I put a Cushig in, and I suddenly thought, that's the Manx name. I wonder if all these others have got Manx names. And that was the start of me doing a book. I found that there were books about, but they weren't comprehensive enough. So that was the reasoning for doing the book. And it's, as I say, it's just a handy book to take with you if you're interested in the Gaelic. And it's interesting how the names are compiled. Some are their usage. We got celandine there, Lustmlaen, and that's the plant of the stomach. Could help you, if you're not feeling well. And others, I mentioned thrift, which is Cion Jerg, descriptive. And then there's others that are just a Manx name for a flower. They don't have any translation to like English. They're just a name for the flower.
John the dog collister there, and myself looking at some of the primroses and wildflowers here blooming on the Isle of Man. And there is something about, I often go out and pick an odd dandelion, Kiri, and an odd wildflower out, and then bring it home and just stick in a little bit of water. They don't last that long, but I think it's just something to look at, and it makes me feel proud to live here on the Isle of Man and be Manx, actually.
There's some beautiful flowers around the roadsides. Down with us, we've got lots of bluebells and white bells, and the garlic is out, and the real smell as you drive through the sunny orchard past the Fairy Bridge there, and the colours from the bluebells and the primroses, it's just spectacular. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, is your garden up to the Chelsea Flower Show standard?
When the sheep aren't eating it, it's not too bad.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, some nice bits there to talk about on this week's Countryside, Kiri. The enthusiasm for people to try and make homes more eco-friendly, I think, is a big thing getting here on the island, isn't it?
It really is. It's important, and plus if it does help with cutting fuel prices and bills, and it'll help families, and they can enjoy going out and seeing other sites and rather than having to worry about the bills at the end of the month.
Yeah, but it's just everything connected with it. That's just the nice thing. And of course, John Dog, enthusiastic as ever about his wildflowers, and loves getting out in the countryside.
It's nice now the sun's finally come out as well. We can really enjoy them.
I put his name down for the island with Bear Grylls, actually. And also the passion that you heard about with the Meg and Orphan Lambs with Jeff Gellan, Kiri.
Yeah, Jeff's very passionate about his Meg lambs, but it's nice now, he's 7 years down the road, and his own lambs are having their own lambs, and they're independent and thriving perfectly well, and he's just so passionate about them and the care and the amount of knowledge he has now about sheep. He can leave some of us sheep farmers standing, really.
Oh dear, we better leave it there then. Join us next week for more Countryside.
Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin or click shaw.com. Love being Shaw. Terms and conditions apply.